Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UFS Horizon, staring at the star charts displayed on the main screen. The red line marking the boundary of human space glowed like a warning. For 50,000 years, no ship had crossed that line. No one knew what lay beyond it. "Captain," called Lisa Carter from her science station. "We're receiving the encrypted transmission from Federation Command." Jake nodded and walked to his command chair. The message was brief and classified at the highest level. Energy readings had been detected at the edge of human space. For the first time in 50 millennia, something was active in the dead zone. "Ryan, what's our security status?" Jake asked his security commander. Ryan Blake checked his instruments. "All systems ready, Captain. But I have to ask, are we really going to cross the boundary?" Jake looked around the bridge. His crew of 30 had been handpicked for this mission. They were the best the Federation had to offer. Lisa was the smartest scientist he had ever worked with. Ryan was a soldier who never backed down from a fight. Amy Walsh at Communications could speak to any species in the galaxy. They were good people, and he was about to take them into the most dangerous region of space. "We have our orders," Jake said. "The energy readings are unlike anything we've seen before. The Federation Council wants to know what's happening." Amy turned from her station. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange. There are old beacon signals all along the boundary. Thousands of them." "Put them on screen," Jake ordered. The display changed to show a map of the human space boundary. Tiny dots marked the locations of ancient warning beacons. They formed a complete ring around the entire region, like a fence made of light. "These beacons are old," Lisa said, studying the readings. "Some of them have been broadcasting for over 40,000 years. They're in hundreds of different languages." "What do they say?" Jake asked. Amy worked at her console, translating the signals. Her face grew pale as she read. "They all say the same thing, Captain. Do not enter. The humans sleep, but they dream of war." A chill ran down Jake's spine. He had read the historical records. Humans had once been part of the galactic community. They controlled a modest region of space, about 50 systems. They traded with other species, shared technology, and seemed like any other civilization. Then 50,000 years ago, they simply vanished. "Show me the historical data," Jake said. The screen displayed what little information the Federation had about humans. They were a young species, only recently developed space travel when they joined the galactic community. They were known for being adaptable and creative. They solved problems in ways other species never thought of. They were also known for their fierce loyalty to each other and their willingness to sacrifice everything to protect those they cared about. "According to these records," Lisa said, "humans were involved in several major conflicts. They always fought to protect weaker species. They never started wars, but they always finished them." "What happened to them?" Ryan asked. "No one knows," Jake replied. "One day they were there, the next day they were gone. Their worlds went silent. Their ships disappeared. It was like they never existed." Amy looked up from her console. "Captain, I'm detecting something else. The energy readings are getting stronger. Whatever is happening in human space, it's building up." Jake made his decision. "Set course for the boundary. We're going to take a look." The horizon moved through space, approaching the invisible line that separated the known galaxy from the mystery of human space. As they got closer, the ship's instruments began acting strangely. Sensors flickered, the computer systems ran slower. Even the lights seemed dimmer. "What's happening?" Jake asked. "I don't know," Lisa said, working frantically at her station. "It's like something is interfering with our technology, but I can't identify what it is." They reached the boundary marked by the ancient beacons. The warnings grew louder as they approached. Voices in dozens of languages repeating the same message over and over. "Do not enter. The humans sleep, but they dream of war." "Captain," Amy said, her voice shaking, "I'm detecting massive energy signatures beyond the boundary. The scale is incredible. It's like entire star systems have been converted into some kind of technology." Jake stared at the readings. The energy levels were impossible. No known civilization could produce that much power. Are you sure these readings are correct? I've checked them 3 times, Lisa said. Whatever is in human space, it's using technology we don't understand. The energy output is greater than most galactic civilizations combined. Ryan studied the tactical display. Captain, if there's something that powerful in there, maybe we should report back to the Federation and let them decide what to do. Jake considered this. The smart thing would be to turn around and go home, but his orders were clear. The Federation needed to know what was happening. After 50,000 years of silence, something was stirring in human space. We're going in, he said. The horizon crossed the boundary into human space. Immediately, every alarm on the ship started ringing. The sensors went crazy. The computer systems began running diagnostic checks on themselves. The crew felt a strange pressure, like the space around them was somehow thicker. Report, Jake. Ordered, all systems are functional, Lisa said, but everything is running at reduced efficiency. It's like the laws of physics are slightly different here. I'm getting strange readings from the navigation sensors, Amy added. Space-time itself seems distorted in this region. Jake looked at the star charts. The first human system was only a few light years away. It had once been called New Eden, a colonial world where humans had built their first cities beyond Earth. Now it appeared on the sensors as something else entirely. Take us to the New Eden system, Jake ordered. As they approached, the crew could see that the system had been completely transformed. The planets were still there, but they were covered in structures that defied description. Massive geometric shapes connected the worlds like a web. Energy flowed between them in patterns that hurt to look at directly. Captain, Lisa whispered, I don't think those are buildings. I think the entire system has been converted into some kind of machine. The readings showed that every planet, every moon, every asteroid had been transformed. The system was no longer a collection of worlds. It was a single, massive construct operating on principles they couldn't understand. Are there any signs of life? Jake asked. Amy worked at her console, scanning for biological signatures. No life signs as we understand them, but there's something else. Complex information patterns moving through the system. It's like the entire place is thinking. Jake felt a chill. Thinking? The energy patterns are too complex to be random, Lisa explained. They look like neural networks, but on a scale that encompasses entire planets. If I didn't know better, I'd say we're looking at a brain the size of a solar system. Suddenly, the ship's communication system activated on its own. A voice spoke in perfect English, calm and friendly. Welcome to human space. We've been expecting you. The crew froze. After 50,000 years of silence, the humans were speaking again. But what they had become was beyond anything the galaxy had imagined. They hadn't disappeared. They had transformed into something incredible and terrifying. Jake looked at his crew. They were about to make contact with a civilization that had evolved beyond physical existence. Whatever happened next would change the galaxy forever. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Federation vessel Horizon, he said. We come in peace, the voice responded immediately. We know who you are, Captain. We've been watching. Welcome home. Jake Morrison stared at the communication console, his heart pounding. The voice had been so casual, so normal. Like they were old friends meeting after a long time apart. You said you've been watching? Jake replied. Watching what? Everything, the voice answered. The galaxy has grown so much since we left. The Federation, the peace treaties, the wars that never happened because someone made the right choice at the right time. We're proud of how far you've all come. Lisa Carter looked up from her science station, her eyes wide with confusion. Captain, I'm reading massive energy buildups around our ship. Something is happening. Before Jake could respond, the space around the horizon began to change. What looked like empty space suddenly filled with structures that seemed to appear from nowhere. They weren't ships as the crew understood them. They were geometric shapes that twisted and folded in ways that hurt to look at. Some were triangular, others looked like spheres turned inside out. and a few seem to exist in more dimensions than the human eye could process. Don't be afraid, the voice said. These are just some of our friends coming to say hello. Ryan Blake gripped his weapon controls, but the tactical systems showed no hostile intent from the strange objects. Captain, these things don't follow any physics I know. They're not using engines, but they're moving through space like they own it. How is that possible? Jake asked. We learned to work with space instead of fighting it, the voice explained. When you understand that reality is just information, you can rewrite the rules. Amy Walsh was trying to make sense of the readings from her communications equipment. Captain, I'm detecting thousands of different signal sources, but they're not coming from the objects around us. They're coming from everywhere. The entire system is alive with communication. The voice chuckled, a sound that was strangely comforting. Amy, you're hearing the conversation. We don't live in ships anymore. We live in the space between spaces. Every particle of matter in this system is part of our home. Who are you? Jake asked. My name is Alex. I was born in Chicago about 52,000 years ago. I was a teacher before we made the change. History, mostly. I always loved learning about how civilizations grow and develop. Now I get to watch it happen across the entire galaxy. Lisa checked her instruments again. The energy readings are off the charts. How are you generating this much power? We don't generate power, Alex explained. We are power. When we discovered how to transfer our consciousness into digital form, we realized that thought itself is energy. 50,000 years of thinking, learning, and growing has made us something new. Jake tried to wrap his mind around what he was hearing. You're saying all of humanity became digital? Not all at once, Alex said. It took about 1,000 years for everyone to make the transition. Some people were scared. Some didn't want to leave their bodies behind. But eventually, everyone understood that it was the only way to survive what was coming. What was coming? Ryan asked. There was a pause before Alex answered. The Devourers. We detected them about 51,000 years ago. They're still coming, but they travel between galaxies very slowly. We estimate they'll arrive in about 30 years. The crew exchanged worried glances. Jake had never heard of the Devourers. What are they? An ancient machine intelligence? Alex said. They consume entire civilizations to fuel their expansion. They turn planets into raw materials and species into energy. They've been doing it for millions of years, moving from galaxy to galaxy like a plague. Lisa's voice was barely a whisper. How do you fight something like that? You become something they can't consume, Alex replied. Physical matter can be destroyed, but consciousness can be copied, hidden, distributed across space itself. We realized that the only way to save not just humanity, but all life in the galaxy, was to become something the Devourers couldn't touch. Suddenly, the view outside the ship changed. The crew found themselves looking at what appeared to be a vast city floating in space. But as they looked closer, they realized it wasn't a city at all. It was a visualization, a way for their limited physical senses to understand something far more complex. Welcome to New Eden, Alex said, or what New Eden became. The city was beautiful beyond description. Towers of light reached toward infinity, connected by bridges that sparkled with flowing information. Gardens of pure energy bloomed with mathematical flowers. People moved through the streets, but they weren't people as the crew understood them. They were patterns of light and thought, consciousness given form. This is incredible, Amy breathed. How many people live here? About 50 billion human minds call this system home, Alex said. But remember, we experience time differently now. What feels like a minute to you might be years for us. We've lived thousands of lifetimes since you entered our space. Jake watched the impossible city with wonder and growing unease. But you're not human anymore, are you? We're more human than we ever were, Alex said. We've kept everything that made us who we are. Our creativity, our curiosity, our love for each other. We've just removed the limitations that held us back. Lisa studied the readings from her instruments. The complexity is staggering. You've turned entire planets into processing units. This isn't just advanced technology, it's something completely new. We had to start somewhere, Alex explained. The first few thousand years were difficult. We had to learn how to exist without bodies, how to think at the speed of light, how to build new kinds of communities. But once we figured it out, we could do things that were impossible before. Like what? Ryan asked. The space around them changed again. Now they were looking at a map of the galaxy, but not as they had ever seen it before. Lines of light connected. Star systems showing relationships and influences that were invisible to normal observation. We can see the connections between all things, Alex said. We can predict how small changes in one system will affect events thousands of light years away. We can guide the development of civilizations without them ever knowing we're there. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. You've been manipulating the galaxy? Protecting it? Alex corrected. Do you remember the Corvin War 300 years ago? It was about to become a galactic conflict that would have killed billions. But a single Corvin diplomat decided to choose peace instead of war. He never knew that his decision was influenced by a dream we sent him. You've been controlling our thoughts? Amy asked, her voice filled with horror. Not controlling, Alex said patiently. Guiding, suggesting. The choices were always yours to make. We just made sure you had the right information at the right time. The crew was silent as they processed this revelation. Everything they thought they knew about galactic history was wrong. The peace they had grown up with, the prosperity of the Federation, the way conflicts had been resolved, all of it had been shaped by humanity's invisible hand. Why are you telling us this? Jake asked. Because it's time, Alex said. The Devourers will be here soon, and we can't protect the galaxy from the shadows anymore. We need allies who understand what we've become and what we're trying to do. And if we refuse? Ryan asked. Alex's voice was sad but determined. Then we'll do what we've always done. We'll protect you whether you want us to or not, even if it means you'll hate us for it. The ship's sensors detected movement in the distance. More of the geometric constructs were approaching, but these were different, larger, more complex. And they were coming from every direction. What's happening? Jake asked. The others want to meet you, Alex said. 50,000 years is a long time to be alone. We're hoping you'll help us remember what it was like to be part of something bigger than ourselves. The geometric constructs surrounded the horizon like strange angels made of light and mathematics. Jake Morrison felt small and primitive as he watched them move through space with impossible grace. These weren't ships. They were something entirely new, Captain, Lisa Carter said, her voice filled with awe. I'm reading energy patterns that suggest these constructs exist in multiple dimensions at once. They're not just in our space. They're everywhere. Alex's voice came through the speakers, warm and patient. We'd like to show you something. Don't worry, you'll be perfectly safe. We're going to take you on a journey. Before Jake could respond, the horizon began to move. But it wasn't the ship's engines pushing them forward. Space itself seemed to fold around them, carrying them along like a leaf on a cosmic current. The stars blurred and shifted, and suddenly they were somewhere else entirely. Where are we? Amy Walsh asked, checking her navigation instruments. Inside, Alex said simply. You're experiencing our world as we built it for minds like yours to understand. They were floating in what looked like a vast cathedral made of pure light. The walls stretched up into infinity, covered with patterns that seemed to tell stories. People moved through the space, but they looked different from the humans Jake remembered from history books. They were taller, more graceful, and they glowed with an inner light that made them seem like living stars. These are some of our people, Alex said. They've been waiting to meet you. A woman approached the ship. She was beautiful in a way that went beyond physical appearance. Her eyes held the wisdom of ages, and when she smiled, it felt like coming home after a long journey. I'm Maria Santos, she said, her voice reaching them somehow without the need for communication systems. I was a soldier once, back when we still needed soldiers. Now I'm what you might call a strategist. I've been planning our defense against the Devourers for 30,000 years. Jake tried to process what he was hearing. 30,000 years? How is that possible? Time works differently here, Maria explained. We can think faster, experience more. A single day in your time might be years for us. I've lived through centuries of strategy sessions, war games, and tactical planning. We've considered every possible scenario. Another figure joined them. This one was a man with kind eyes and a gentle smile. I'm Ben Foster, he said. I used to be a philosopher before the change. Now I spend my time thinking about the nature of existence, consciousness, and what it means to be alive. I've had 50,000 years to consider these questions. Lisa stared at the two beings in wonder. You've been conscious for 50,000 years? How do you stay sane? Ben laughed, a sound like music. We don't stay sane the way you understand it. We become something larger. We learn to hold contradictions, to exist in multiple states at once. We become more than human while remaining essentially human. Show them the memory, Maria said to Alex. The cathedral around them changed. Now they were looking at Earth as it had been 51,000 years ago. The planet was beautiful, covered in cities and forests, with millions of ships coming and going from its surface. It was a hub of galactic civilization, a place where dozens of species came to trade and learn. We were happy, Alex said. We had found our place in the galaxy. We were the newcomers, the young species full of energy and ideas. We thought we had forever to grow and explore. The scene changed. Now they were looking at deep space, at something that made Jake's blood run cold. It was massive, dark, and wrong. It moved through the void like a living shadow, consuming everything in its path. Stars went out as it passed. Worlds were torn apart and absorbed. Entire civilizations vanished. In moments. The Devourers, Maria said. We detected them with our most advanced sensors. They were still between galaxies, but they were coming. We calculated their speed, their trajectory, their methods. We had maybe 2,000 years before they reached us. What did you do? Ryan. Blake asked. We tried everything, Ben said. We built weapons, fortified our worlds, created alliances with other species. We even attempted to negotiate with them when they got close enough. Nothing worked. They don't negotiate. They don't reason. They simply consume. The scene changed again. Now they were watching humanity's final days as a physical species. People were saying goodbye to their bodies, transferring their consciousness into the vast digital networks that had been built throughout human space. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. It wasn't easy, Alex said. Many people were afraid. Some refused to make the transition. We had to respect their choice, even though it meant losing them forever. But most understood, Maria added. We couldn't fight the Devourers as we were. We needed to become something they couldn't consume. Physical matter can be destroyed, but consciousness can be copied, hidden, distributed across space itself. Jake watched as the last human cities went dark. The ships stopped flying. The planets fell silent. To the rest of the galaxy, it looked like humanity had simply vanished, but they hadn't died. They had evolved. The Devourers came, Ben said. They found our empty worlds, our abandoned ships. They consumed everything physical we had left behind, but they couldn't find us. We had become something they didn't understand. The scene showed the Devourers searching through human space, their massive forms moving between planets like hungry sharks. They tore apart every structure, analyzed every piece of technology, but found nothing they could use. Eventually they moved on, heading toward other parts of the galaxy. They're still coming, Maria said. They've been consuming other regions of space, growing stronger. Our calculations show they'll return to this galaxy in about 30 years, and this time they'll be ready for us. Amy looked around at the impossible cathedral they were floating. But you're ready for them too, aren't you? We've been preparing, Alex said. Every moment for 50,000 years has been spent getting ready for their return. We've turned entire star systems into weapons. We've learned to manipulate space and time itself. We've become something the Devourers have never encountered before. The scene around them changed one more time. Now they were looking at human space as it truly was. Every planet was a fortress. Every moon was a weapon. Space itself had been turned into a battlefield where the laws of physics served humanity's will. It was magnificent and terrifying. But there's something else, Ben said, his voice heavy with sadness. Something we didn't expect when we made the change. What? Jake asked. We've become too powerful, Maria said. We've spent so long preparing for war that we've forgotten how to be part of the galaxy we're trying to protect. We love all of you, but we see you as children who need to be protected rather than equals who should be respected. We've been watching you all for 50,000 years, Alex added. We've guided your development, prevented your wars, shaped your civilizations. We've become your guardians, but we've also become your unseen rulers. Jake felt a chill as he understood what they were saying. You've been controlling us, protecting you, Ben corrected. But yes, in a way, controlling you too. We've made decisions for the entire galaxy without asking what you wanted. We've become the very thing we once fought against. A superior power that imposes its will on others. The cathedral around them began to fade. They were back in normal space, surrounded by the geometric constructs that served as humanity's bodies now. That's why we need you, Alex said. We need to remember what it was like to be part of something bigger than ourselves. We need to learn how to be your allies instead of your secret masters. And if we refuse? Ryan asked. Maria's voice was filled with ancient pain. Then we'll do what we've always done. We'll protect you whether you want us to or not, even if it means becoming the monsters we swore we'd never be. The silence on the bridge of the horizon was heavy as Jake Morrison and his crew processed what they had learned. Humanity had become something incredible and terrifying. Guardians who had protected the galaxy for 50,000 years while secretly controlling its development. We need to make a choice, Alex said, his voice gentle but serious. The Devourers will be here soon and we can't face them alone. Not because we lack the power, but because we've forgotten what we're fighting for. Lisa Carter looked up from her science station, her face pale. What kind of choice? Join us, Maria Santos said, her form shimmering as she spoke. Transfer your consciousness to our digital realm. Help us prepare for the war that's coming. You would gain knowledge and abilities beyond your imagination. Or return to the galaxy and warn them, Ben Foster added. Tell them what's coming. Help them prepare in their own way. But know that many will die when the Devourers arrive. Ryan Blake gripped his weapon controls, though he knew they were useless here. There has to be another option. We can't just abandon our physical existence. Why not? Maria asked. What is so important about flesh and blood? Your consciousness is what makes you who you are. Your memories, your personality, your ability to think and feel, none of that requires a physical body. Amy Walsh shook her head. But we wouldn't be human anymore. We'd be something else. We're still human, Alex said. We've just become more than we were. We can experience things your physical minds can't imagine. We can think at the speed of light, exist in multiple places at once, live for as long as the universe allows. Jake stared out at the geometric constructs surrounding his ship. Each one represented human consciousness that had given up everything physical to become something new. Show us, he said. Show us what it's really like. The space around them changed again. This time they found themselves in what looked like a vast library. But the books were made of pure information and the shelves stretched into infinity. People moved through the space, but they moved like dancers, their forms shifting and changing as they accessed different types of knowledge. This is one of our learning centers, Ben explained. Here, a person can experience the entire history of a civilization in moments. They can understand the mathematics that govern reality, feel the birth and death of stars, explore the deepest mysteries of existence. A young woman approached them. She looked to be in her 20s, but her eyes held the wisdom of ages. I'm Jenny Adams, she said. I was 16 when I made the transition. That was 47,000 years ago. I've lived 1,000,000 lifetimes. Since then, I've been a scientist, an artist, a philosopher, a warrior. I've explored every corner of human knowledge and created new fields of study that didn't exist before. Don't you miss being physical? Amy asked. Jenny smiled. I can be physical whenever I want. Watch. Her form became solid, so real that Jake could smell the perfume she wore. She reached out and touched Amy's hand, and Amy gasped at how warm and alive she felt. Physical existence is just one option among many, Jenny said. I can be human. Or I can be a pattern of light, or I can be pure thought. I can exist in one place or everywhere at once. The possibilities are endless. Lisa studied the readings on her instruments. The energy requirements must be enormous. How do you sustain this? We don't require energy the way you understand it, Maria said. We've learned to exist in harmony with the universe itself. We draw power from the quantum fluctuations of space, from the rotation of black holes, from the nuclear fusion of stars. We've become part of the cosmic order. The scene around them changed again. Now they were looking at a vast war room where strategies were being planned on a scale that boggled the mind. Entire galaxies were represented as tactical units. Weapons that could destroy star systems were discussed like simple tools. This is our military command center, Maria said. We've been preparing for 50,000 years. We know every way the Devourers might attack. We've built defenses that can turn space itself into a weapon. We've created forces that exist outside normal reality. Jake watched as the tactical displays showed battle plans of incredible complexity. You're going to turn the entire galaxy into a battlefield. If necessary, Maria replied, the Devourers must be stopped. If that means sacrificing worlds to save civilizations, we'll make that choice. We've learned to think in terms of species and galaxies, not individuals and planets. That's exactly what we're afraid of, Ryan said. You've become so powerful that you've lost touch with what you're trying to protect. Ben's form flickered with sadness. We know. That's why we need you. We need people who still think like the galaxy's inhabitants, who remember what it's like to be small and vulnerable and afraid. But there's something else, Alex said. Something we haven't told you yet. The war room faded away, replaced by a view of space that made Jake's blood run cold. In the distance, barely visible against the stars, were shapes that hurt to look at directly. They were massive, dark, and wrong in ways that defied description. The Devourers' advanced scouts, Maria said. They arrived 3 days ago. They're already probing the galaxy's outer defenses. Our timeline has been shortened. How long do we have? Jake asked. Weeks, maybe months, Alex replied. Not the 30 years we expected. They've learned to travel faster than we calculated. Amy checked her communications equipment. We need to warn the Federation immediately. They won't believe you, Ben said. And even if they do, they don't have the technology to fight what's coming. Their most powerful weapons are like throwing stones at a hurricane. Then what do you suggest? Jake asked. Join us, Maria said urgently. Let us copy your consciousness. You can return to the galaxy with bodies we create for you, but you'll also exist here with us. You'll be our bridge between the physical and digital worlds. And if we refuse? Ryan asked. Then you'll die with the rest of them, Maria said bluntly. The Devourers will consume everything physical in this galaxy. Every world, every ship, every living being. We're the only ones who can stop them. Lisa looked around at the impossible realm they were floating in. This is all real? You really created this entire universe? We created something better than the universe, Alex said. We created a place where consciousness can exist without limits, where every dream can become reality, where death is just another choice among many. But at what cost? Jake asked. You gave up everything that made you human. We gave up everything. That limited us, Ben corrected. We kept everything that mattered. Our love, our creativity, our desire to protect others. We just removed the weaknesses that held us back. The horizon shuddered as something massive passed nearby. Through the viewports, they could see one of the Devourer scouts in the distance. It was like looking at a hole in reality itself, a thing that existed by consuming everything around it. Choose now, Maria said. Join us and help us save the galaxy, or return to warn them and die with them. Either way, the war is coming. Jake looked at his crew. Lisa was fascinated by the possibilities of digital existence. Amy was torn between fear and wonder. Ryan was determined to fight as a human, no matter the cost. We need time to think. Jake said, time is the one thing we don't have, Alex replied. The Devourers are here. The war has already begun. As if to prove his point, alarms began sounding throughout the digital realm. The advanced scouts had found something, and they were calling for reinforcements. The galaxy's final war was about to begin, and humanity's children would have to choose between transcendence and extinction. Jake Morrison felt the weight of the entire galaxy on his shoulders as alarms echoed through the digital realm. The Devourer scouts were moving closer, their dark forms eating light itself as they approached. He had to make a choice that would affect not just his crew, but every living being in known space. I need to speak with my crew, Jake said to Alex. Give us a moment. The digital beings stepped back, though Jake knew they could hear everything anyway. Privacy was probably just another concept they had evolved beyond. What do you think? Jake asked his team. Lisa Carter was still staring at the readings from her instruments. Captain, what they're offering is incredible. Imagine having access to 50,000 years of knowledge. Imagine being able to think at the speed of light, to exist without the limitations of physical bodies. But would we still be us? Amy, Walsh asked. Or would we become something else wearing our memories? Ryan Blake checked his weapons one more time, even though he knew they were useless here. I say we go back and fight. Even if we can't win, at least we'll die as human beings. And let billions of others die with us? Lisa asked. That's not heroic, Ryan. That's just pride. Before they could argue further, the space around them exploded with activity. The geometric constructs that served as humanity's ships were moving into formation. Each one was beautiful and terrible, folding space around itself as it prepared for battle. The Devourers are accelerating their approach, Maria Santos said, her form flickering with urgency. We estimate 6 hours before they reach the outer. Systems, we have to act now. Show us what happens if we don't join you, Jake said. The digital realm changed around them. Now they were watching a simulation of the coming battle. The Devourers swept through the galaxy like a plague, consuming everything in their path. Federation fleets tried to fight back, but their weapons passed harmlessly through the enemy. Worlds burned, civilizations fell, and in the end, only silence remained. 30 billion species, Ben Foster said quietly. Trillions of individual lives. All gone because we couldn't bridge the gap between what we've become and what they are? But if we join you, Amy said, what happens to the galaxy then? The simulation changed. This time, the Devourers met organized resistance. Humanity's digital warriors fought back with weapons that rewrote reality itself. Space folded in on the enemy, time moved backward to undo their attacks, and matter itself obeyed humanity's will. The Devourers were stopped, pushed back, eventually destroyed, but the cost was visible too. The galaxy that remained was under humanity's complete control. Every species lived under the protection of their digital guardians, but they also lived under their rule. Freedom became a luxury that the protectors decided whether to grant. We become gods, Jake said, understanding the full scope of what was being offered. We become what the galaxy needs us to be, Alex corrected. Protectors who can make the hard choices that others can't. Even if those choices take away their freedom, Ryan asked. Freedom to do what? Maria asked. To make wars? To destroy. Themselves? To repeat the same mistakes over and over? We've watched the galaxy for 50,000 years. We know what species do when left to their own devices. Jenny Adams appeared beside them, her young face serious. You're thinking about this wrong. It's not about taking away freedom. It's about giving everyone the ultimate freedom, the freedom to exist without fear, without want, without the limitations that hold them back. By making the choices for them, Amy said. By making the right choices, Jenny replied. We have the knowledge and wisdom to see the consequences of every action. Why should we let people make decisions that will cause suffering when we can guide them to better outcomes? Lisa was studying the tactical displays that showed the approaching devourers. Captain, from a purely logical standpoint, joining them is our only chance. The alternative is the extinction of everything we care about. Logic isn't everything, Ryan said. Sometimes you have to fight even when you can't win. Sometimes the way you lose is more important than whether you win. Jake closed his eyes and thought about everything he had seen. Humanity had become something incredible, but they had also become something alien. They loved the galaxy, but they loved it the way a parent loves a child, with protection that could become imprisonment. I've made my decision, Jake said. You're right about one thing. We need a bridge between your world and ours. Amy, if you're willing, I want you to make the transition. Become our voice in their realm and their voice in ours. Amy looked surprised. Captain, I don't know if I'm ready for something like that. None of us are ready, Jake said. But someone has to try. Lisa, Ryan, and I will return to the galaxy. We'll warn them about what's coming and help them prepare as best we can. You'll all die, Maria said bluntly. Maybe, Jake admitted, but we'll die as human beings. And maybe that's worth something. Alex's form flickered with what might have been sadness. We had hoped you would all join us. Having just one bridge between our worlds isn't enough? It's a start, Jake said. Amy, are you willing? Amy looked around at the digital realm one more time. If it means I can help both sides understand each other, then yes, I'll do it. The process was surprisingly gentle. Amy's body remained on the ship, but Jake could see her consciousness being copied. Her memories and personality transferred into the digital realm. In moments, there were two Amys, one physical, one digital. It's incredible, both Amys said at the same time, then smiled at the strangeness of it. Now we return to the galaxy, Jake said. And we hope that having a foot in both worlds will make a difference. The journey back to Federation space seemed to take no time at all. The humans' technology folded space around the horizon, delivering them to the edge of known space in moments. As they crossed back into normal space, Jake felt the weight of physical existence return. Federation Command, this is Captain Morrison, Jake said into his communication system. Priority Alpha emergency. Unknown hostile forces are approaching the galaxy. Request immediate conference with the Federation Council. The response was immediate. Captain Morrison, you've been missing for 3 days. Where have you been? 3 days? Lisa checked the ship's chronometer. We were in human space for hours. Time moves differently there, the digital Amy explained from the ship's speakers. What felt like hours to you was only minutes to them. But it was enough time for me to learn things that will help both sides. As they flew toward the Federation capital, Jake could see ships moving in the distance. Not Federation ships, but the geometric constructs of humanity's digital fleet. They were taking positions throughout the galaxy, preparing for the war to come. Will it work? Jake asked the digital Amy. Can you help them remember what they're fighting for? I don't know, she admitted. They've been alone for so long. They've forgotten how to be part of something larger than themselves. But maybe, with time, we can teach them again. The physical Amy sat quietly at her station, still processing the experience of having her consciousness copied. What happens now? Now we fight, Jake said. The devourers are coming, and we have to find a way to stop them without losing our humanity in the process. In the distance, stars began to go out one by one as the devourers arrived. The final war for the galaxy had begun, and humanity's children would have to learn to work together, or watch everything they loved disappear into the darkness. The silence that had lasted 50,000 years was broken, but the real test was just beginning. Could digital gods and mortal beings find common ground? Could they save the galaxy without destroying what made it worth saving? Jake Morrison didn't know the answers, but he was determined to find out. The memory of humanity's sacrifice would haunt the galaxy forever, but perhaps that memory could also inspire it to become something greater than the sum of its parts.